Called Julius Malema's latest arguments, filed in a bid to appeal his firearms conviction absurd. Malema was found guilty and sentenced to 5 years direct imprisonment on 5 firearm-related charges. The charges stemmed from the 2018 anniversary rally in Mdantsane, where the EFF leader was captured on video discharging a rifle into the air. Well, joining us now for some analysis on this is Dr. Shadi Mahanwe, senior lecturer at Wits School of Law. Good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this afternoon. Let's just talk maybe about the procedural threshold here in terms of this particular matter and the legal test. So, given that the magistrate denied leave to appeal the conviction but granted it for the sentence, what specific legal threshold must the Malema team clear here to convince the High Court that there is reasonable prospect of success existing regarding the guilty verdict?
So the threshold would be, if you look at his papers, he's basically arguing that the evidence that was used wasn't admissible, right? So if you look at his papers, he has, I think, about 4 grounds. So what he's arguing is there was a failure to prove that a real firearm existed, which is why he's now asking the court for direct permission to appeal that conviction. And then he's also arguing improper reliance on video evidence, where he claims that the video footage was not properly authenticated, misdirection by the court, where he's alleging that the court misrepresented evidence and it drew incorrect inferences from that evidence. He's also arguing that there are weaknesses in the state's case. And he points to contradictions in the evidence and also a lack of forensic proof, which would take us back to that argument on the video evidence. And then he's also arguing prejudice because he's arguing that the state effectively reshaped the case during the trial, and this was based on a bias because of his political status. So the threshold in this instance would be he would need to prove that these grounds that he's relying on are exactly the reason why he should be allowed to appeal, and that both the conviction and the sentence should be set aside.
Well, what is the legal precedence then on this question of the missing firearm? I mean, the physical firearm is not there. The state relying on actually cartridges and other visual evidence. What is the exact legal precedence for this, and how high is the bar for Malema to overturn that view?
So in criminal cases, remember, he who alleges must prove. So in this instance, the state must prove, and it must prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And this is where you find Malema and his legal representatives are poking holes into the evidence that was relied upon. So when it comes to criminal cases, the threshold is much higher because the consequences are also more severe. So remember, the court actually ruled, or they gave him a sentence where he would actually have to stay in custody for the crime. So what he's basically arguing is that you need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and he's arguing that the evidence that was relied upon was actually not admissible because it wasn't properly proved or it wasn't properly authenticated. And that is basically the main argument there. He's arguing mostly the evidence. And if he can poke holes into the evidence, then it would be easier in that instance. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for him to be successful in the appeal process. But if he can prove that the state didn't use admissible evidence because some of the evidence it used was not properly authenticated, then it's going to make it easier, or it's going to raise his prospects of being successful in that instance.
So is the High Court likely going to, for example, visit the toy gun story, that this was a toy gun, or the claim that it was a replica loaded with blanks? Is the High Court likely going to visit that or revisit that, let me say so, and could that possibly present a hurdle for the state?
So in terms of an appeal process, it's not a retrial, right? So we're going to look at the process that was followed, and then also the arguments that he's raising when it comes to that evidence. So if he's arguing that it was a toy gun, and remember, that gun has not been located. So it's not necessarily that the courts are going to look for that toy gun. the state in this instance would have to produce that toy gun. So if they can't produce the actual gun or the toy gun, it's going to be then it makes the process easier for Malema to be successful in that sense. So if we are appealing, we're going to look at the process that was followed by the magistrate court, and then the High Court will make a decision in that instance.
Subscribe.